If Aria is like the future of America, then perhaps that future is completely empty. Because it's hard to believe that a hotel once hailed as a preview of Vegas for the next decade is now slowly turning into a ghost hotel right in the heart of America's brightest lights. Once representing Vegas's leap forward from technology to neo-futuristic design, Aria sets the standard for the next generation of hotels. But for now, those glamorous prospects are gradually collapsing. Room vacancy rates are soaring, high-end guests are disappearing, revenue is plummeting, and the corridors are as empty as if haunted. The belief that Aria is a symbol of Vegas's future is gradually being betrayed. Because this decline didn't stem from a single mistake, but from the very strategy Las Vegas is pursuing. The select and charge model, which pushes out middle-class customers and inadvertently creates gaps even within the structures considered the epitome of luxury. In today's video, we'll uncover the truth behind Vegas's newest ghost hotel and why Aria is becoming the worst symbol of luxury on the Strip. In 2025, Las Vegas entered a phase that many experts once believed would be a new growth cycle. After a long period of tourism recovery, expectations for this city are high. International tourist arrivals are returning, sporting events are boosting travel, and new infrastructure is adding momentum. Aria, one of the central resorts within the MGM Group, is considered a representation of that expectation. Modern, high-tech, and positioned as the new standard for luxury property in Vegas. However, the actual developments went in the opposite direction. Industry reports show that the overall Strip occupancy rate for June 2025 decreased by nearly 14.9%, and in the first week of July 2025, RevPAR continued to decline by 28.7% to approximately $102, a level indicating that thousands of rooms are not being used. International visitor numbers decreased by over 13% in some months, while overall market visitor volume decreased by 6 to 7% in many weeks. These numbers not only reflect the weakening of the tourism industry, but also lead to emptiness in what should be Vegas's busiest spaces. Aria, with its large-scale structure and connecting role between Bellagio, Vdara, Crystals, is directly impacted by this fluctuation. Low room capacity significantly reduces the density of people in corridors, overpasses, lobbies, and internal walkways. As the US economy slowed, consumer prices rose, and leisure travel declined. Resorts were forced to operate below design capacity, and Aria became the prime example of that phenomenon. However, the cause is not solely due to the general context. Aria's internal operating model itself exacerbated the problem. The room rate of approximately $320 per night comes with a room that exhibits numerous hygiene issues. Forgotten towels, clumps of hair on the floor, in corners, in the sink, and in the bathtub. Non-functional lights, dried stains on the walls, and many signs of deterioration in the bathroom and hallway. This is no longer an isolated error, but an indication that quality control processes are lax in many stages. Aria's high-cost model, dense surcharges, and few mass-market incentives make the experience less compatible with changing consumer behavior. Guests cut spending, limited use of internal services, moved less within common areas, and as a result, the resort became even emptier. The reactions of tourists also clearly reflect this issue. A visitor publicly shared their opinion that Aria's level of cleanliness did not match its luxury positioning. He believes this is a sign that Las Vegas is being dominated too much by profit over the basic customer experience. This assessment further reinforces the evaluation of deviations in Aria's internal operations. This is all the more remarkable, considering Aria was once positioned as the model for the future of Vegas. Smart rooms, minimalist design, nearly 4,000 standardized rooms based on a modern model, and direct connection to the most luxurious areas of the Strip. But instead of becoming a symbol of the revival phase, Aria became the clearest manifestation of low capacity, sparse space, uneven quality, and the absence of the very tourists it was built to serve. That paradox makes Aria a ghost hotel in the modern sense. Not an abandoned hotel, but a luxury hotel operating under capacity, lacking activity density and the human element, which was once the soul of Las Vegas. And when a luxury hotel falls empty, has Vegas misunderstood the nature of luxury? And is the ever-increasing price inflation creating a model of luxury that exists only on invoices but not in real-world experience? Entering 2025, Las Vegas is witnessing a notable shift in pricing strategies. Instead of keeping the experience accessible as before, many resorts are starting to adopt a low room rate, high surcharge model to offset the decline in leisure revenue. The market context shows that international visitor arrivals decreased by as much as 13.2% in some months, and visitor volume consistently declined by 6 to 7% at various times. When spending demand decreases, fixed costs force businesses to find ways to optimize revenue from ancillary fees. In fact, this led to a structural shift in how Vegas defines luxury. Instead of building value based on the quality of the experience, many resorts set the standard for luxury with their price lists. Water $26, cocktails $18 a portion of burger from a kiosk near $2 after tip. The perks that were once the minimum standard in Vegas, from the casual buffet to the feeling of accessibility of services, are gradually disappearing, making way for a uniform high-cost model. As a result, the consumption behavior of tourists has changed significantly. Instead of wandering around casinos, many people choose to stay in their rooms to avoid unexpected spending. Many tourists, instead of buying everything at once like before, are now choosing to stand in long lines at convenience stores like Walgreens to buy cheaper items. This reduces pedestrian traffic, the characteristic lifeblood of Vegas, and makes public spaces more subdued. This influence is clearly evident at Aria. Despite being categorized as luxury property, the actual quality of the room did not reflect the price of over USD 300 per night. Basic errors such as hair clumps in the bathroom, lingering stains, missing items, or non-functional lights indicate inconsistent quality control processes. At the in-house services, the price doesn't match the quality. A 50-minute spa package costs a total of USD 228, but is only rated as average, while the lounge space doesn't meet the standard of tranquility that is characteristic of high-end spa services. That change poses significant socio-economic impacts. When luxury is defined primarily by price, Vegas loses its largest and most stable customer base, the middle class. This is the group that creates the social flow in the casino, sets the pace of life for the neighborhoods, and sustains the energy of the entire tourism ecosystem. When they retreat, Vegas loses the live element that the luxury segment cannot compensate for on its own. In that context, Aria became a prime example of the disconnect between price and quality, a luxury model that exists only on the bill, not reflected in the experience. The gap between expectations and reality is widening, leading to a decline in tourist confidence. And that gap will have the most noticeable consequences in the place where the highest standards should be maintained: housekeeping. When costs increase but manpower and quality decrease, what will happen to the 5-star floor, which is the benchmark for the entire hotel? The decline in room capacity across the entire Strip in 2025 will not only affect revenue, but will also directly impact the internal operational quality of the resorts. One of the most noticeable consequences is the reduction in workload for housekeeping staff. When guest numbers decline and many rooms remain unoccupied for extended periods, hotels often adjust cleaning schedules to save costs, leading to many rooms not being checked regularly. This leads to the accumulation of dust, odors, stains, and dirt, factors that are quickly addressed when the cycle of use and cleaning is continuous. Many industry reports indicate that when revenue declines, housekeeping is often the first department to be cut. This is a systemic trend, and what happened at Aria is perfectly in line with that context. The simultaneous occurrence of hygiene errors, from forgotten towels and clumps of hair in multiple locations to lingering stains, reflects a shortage of staff and a breakdown in the quality control process. The situation doesn't just stay in the room. Common areas such as hallways, carpets, and walls near room doors also show stains, scratches, and signs of long-term use that have not been addressed. The fragmentation in cleaning quality, clean areas, dirty areas, indicates that the housekeeping process is not implemented uniformly and seems to be divided based on priority or staffing capabilities. These manifestations indicate that this is not the fault of an individual or a single housekeeping shift, but rather the consequence of an operational structure struggling in the context of declining guests, revenue, and manpower. Aria is merely the clearest example of this breakdown, as the most basic standards of a luxury hotel are no longer consistently maintained. When the minimum operational steps are no longer commensurate with the price of a luxury property, is the resort's true goal still focused on experience, or has it shifted to maximizing the value derived from each guest? If this is a general trend, then the problem is not just with housekeeping. It relates to how the entire system views guests, and that leads directly to the next story. The extraction machine model is reshaping how resorts treat users. Alongside the decline in tourism in 2025, numerous reports in the United States indicate that high resort fees, parking fees, and other surcharges are becoming one of the biggest factors deterring tourists. This is no longer an isolated phenomenon of a single resort, but has become a common business model across the entire Strip, keeping room prices attractive enough to draw bookings, but making up for it with a series of fees after guests arrive. As the number of international and middle-class guests declines, the low room rate, high-fee stack model is being applied more aggressively. Resorts seek to maintain profits by driving up the actual cost of a vacation, from resort fees, parking fees, and amenity fees to the prices of food and beverages, spas, and minibars. For high-end hotels like Aria, the higher-than-average prices for F&B and in-room services significantly increase the overall cost. The low occupancy rate further makes this strategy popular. When there aren't enough guests to generate a steady stream of revenue, resorts are forced to optimize every small touchpoint. Daily parking fees, high suggested tips even at self-service kiosks, bottled water at inflated prices, and many other surcharges integrated into the default experience. This is characteristic of an extraction economy, where the focus is not on improving service quality, but on maximizing the revenue generated from each customer visit. The result is that costs piled upon costs, creating a feeling of being worn down in the experience. Tourists tend to limit going outside, are no longer proactive in participating in recreational activities, and consume less within the resort. This directly contributes to the emptiness in casinos, hallways, and streets, places that were once the lifeblood of Las Vegas. It's not because the city lacks infrastructure, but because the operational model is making guests passive and defensive in their spending. In that context, Aria became the most obvious example. A hotel designed to maximize revenue based on an extractive value model, but which lost the core element of the hospitality industry, the feeling of being served rather than the feeling of being charged. Entertainment activities have weakened, casinos have lost energy, and spaces that should have come alive have become silent places. From here, the question arises: if Vegas continues on this trajectory, which classes will still be able to be served in the future? The decline in visitor volume in 2025, with some months showing a decrease of approximately 6.5%, indicates that the mass market, Las Vegas's largest and most stable group of visitors, is leaving the market. This is the group that generated most of the social activity, the influx of people into casinos, and the basic consumer spending that kept the entire Strip running. As ancillary costs rose sharply, food and beverage prices were pushed higher, and table betting limits became increasingly large, the middle class no longer saw Vegas as the accessible destination it once was. Meanwhile, resorts are beginning to adjust their business models to focus on high-spending guests. Whales. However, this is an extremely small group in number and cannot make up for the absence of the millions of middle-class visitors who once created the hustle and bustle that is characteristic of Vegas. A casino can survive on a few high-spending individuals, but an entertainment city cannot. The vibe, energy, and density of activity are created by the crowd, not by a few. In recent years, Vegas has gradually eliminated structures that are friendly to the general public. Cheap buffets have disappeared, free shows have stopped operating, and low-cost food courts have been replaced by high-end food halls. The middle class once relied on these products to enjoy themselves on a reasonable budget. When those options disappear, the mass lifestyle, which is the foundation of the Vegas experience, also weakens. Aria is located in the heart of the Strip, surrounded by crystals, high-end restaurants, and luxury brands, making the filtering of middle-class guests more pronounced than anywhere else. The space surrounding Aria is no longer universal. It primarily caters to those with high spending levels. When the general public leaves the area, social interaction, pedestrian density, and the overall vibrancy of the Strip decrease significantly. The disappearance of the middle class is not simply a change in customer demographics. It is the loss of the soul that drives Vegas. A city once known as open to all is gradually shifting to serve the few, and the price to pay is the decline of the vibrant environment that was the reason people came here in the first place. And when an entertainment city loses its mass energy, the next impact will be most evident in the most important space of any resort, the casino floor. Will Aria, which was invested in to become a hub of activity, retain that vibrancy, or is it gradually transforming into a cold administrative space? One of the clearest indicators of a decline in the Las Vegas tourism industry in 2025 is the slowdown in gambling revenue. Many market reports indicate that casino revenue has not increased in proportion to the costs incurred by the resorts, and there have even been periods described as weakening. As tourists tighten their belts and participate less in games, casinos, the central hub of every Vegas resort, began to show rare emptiness. This decline has led to images that are the opposite of traditional Vegas. Slot machines are open, but no one is sitting at them, and tables that were once crowded now have only a few scattered people. This isn't just visual emptiness. It's the loss of the auditory elements that define a casino. When the sounds of chips, cheers, and laughter no longer appear regularly, the space becomes empty in both a physical and emotional sense. In that context, Aria's casino became the most visible example. Despite its spaciousness, high-end design, and modern facilities, the lack of players has caused this place to lose its energy density, the very essence of a true casino. Designed with low lighting, muted tones, and soundproofing, the space easily feels serious, more like an administrative corridor than a recreational area. When service revenue declines, resorts tend to cut costs for atmosphere-building activities, small events, entertainers, live performances, and even music. These cuts continue to diminish the vitality that must be maintained constantly to create the characteristic vibe of Vegas. A casino can be beautiful, clean, and modern, but if it lacks foot traffic and social activity, it won't be able to maintain a lively atmosphere, which is the essence of an entertainment experience. Aria, with its large scale, low frequency of operation, and design that prioritizes subtlety, becomes particularly sensitive to this change. When there are not enough users, the entire architecture and layout cannot realize its value. A five-star casino is only truly a casino when it operates in an environment with enough movement, sound, and energy. When those elements disappeared, it quickly took on the appearance of an office space, standard, functional, but lacking vitality. And when the casino, the heart of the resort, loses its energy, the next fundamental question arises: can Vegas still maintain the soul of the American luxury model, or is the entire city heading toward the end of an era? This leads directly to the final part, an obituary for an icon. 2025 marked an unexpected turning point for Las Vegas. Guest numbers are down, room occupancy is down, RevPAR is down, and service revenue is down across the board, all pointing to one reality. The entertainment tourism model that sustained Vegas for decades is entering a comprehensive crisis. These numbers are not a temporary market fluctuation, but rather an indicator of a profound shift in consumer behavior, in the resilience of the middle class, and in the entire economic structure of the city. American luxury, once Vegas's signature brand, was based on the idea that even those not in the wealthy class could experience a taste of opulence. This is the accessible luxury model, a buffet with reasonable prices, cheap cocktails, free outdoor shows, and tables suitable for the average budget. These are the things that allow millions of Americans to step into Vegas and feel like they are experiencing something larger than their everyday lives. More importantly, it makes Las Vegas a city of the collective, not of the few. But that ecosystem is gone now. As operating costs rise, as resort fees, parking fees, and other surcharges increase simultaneously, and as food, beverage, and service prices are pushed to unprecedented levels, the accessible luxury model is being replaced by something else: luxury by price. This is a shift from value to price, from experience to financial strategy. Aria became the most representative example of this trend. Despite its modern resort appearance, glass, steel, minimalist design, automated technology, Aria clearly embodies the paradox of a new Vegas: glittering on the outside, empty on the inside. This image is not a temporary incident, but the inevitable result of many years of operation based on a fee-for-service model rather than service-based. When rooms are expensive but the quality doesn't match, when surcharges are high but the experience doesn't expand, when every service touchpoint is structured as an opportunity to collect extra fees, visitors begin to look at Vegas with different eyes. This creates a sociological break. Vegas once thrived on the working class, the people who made the city a place that never sleeps with their very presence. But when they are excluded from the experience, the collective energy they create also disappears. The casino space became empty. The hallways lacked the sound of footsteps. Entertainment areas reduced activity, and the streets were sparsely populated. Vegas always needs a crowd, but that crowd no longer sees itself in the new model. The combination of a plummeting market and a misguided business model creates the feeling of reading an obituary for the classic luxury that once made Vegas legendary. It's not because Vegas is no longer beautiful, no longer has lights, or no longer offers services, and because the elements that make up its soul, the blending of classes, the accessibility of joy, the vibrancy from the crowd, have been replaced
by a narrower, colder, and more cost-focused definition. Aria isn't the only place following this trajectory, but it's the clearest example of what Vegas is losing. The luxurious yet empty space of Aria is like a reminder that opulence cannot exist without the human element. Without a crowd, the lights only illuminated the empty space. Without social energy, all designs become meaningless. And if the future of Vegas continues to be built on this model, it's very likely that American luxury, the very thing that once made the city unique, will disappear completely. Las Vegas was once built on a promise. Anyone who entered this city could find a bit of joy, a bit of light, and a bit of an escape from everyday life. But what's happening at Aria shows that promise is changing in an unpredictable way. When cost becomes a barrier, when services become inaccessible, and when the public nature of Vegas is diminished, the empty spaces in casinos, hallways, and plazas are not just physical voids. They are gaps in the very human experience. Perhaps Aria wasn't the cause, but merely the earliest test for Vegas's new direction. But if this test reveals weaknesses in the current model, it's also an opportunity for the city to reflect on what once made it different. Because not all change is progress, and not everything expensive is luxurious. The life of Las Vegas has never come from the buildings. It comes from the people who enter them. If the luxury at a price model continues to expand, will Las Vegas remain a city for the masses, or will it become a closed playground for the minority? And if the emptiness at Aria reflects the future of Vegas, should we be worried, or should we see this as a warning to adjust our course? If you feel these changes are happening in places you used to visit and experience, please share your thoughts below. A like, share, or subscribe will help the channel continue to provide independent, honest, and neutral analyses of the stories shaping the future of many cities across the United States. The content in the video is based on public data, recorded experiences, and independent analysis.
The video is not intended to attack any business, individual, or organization. All reviews are general comments and are subject to change over time, depending on new information released or updated in the hospitality industry.